Hi there. Well, if you are seeing this, congratulations and welcome. Joined the Mainstay team, and you've obviously made it past the gauntlet that is the Mainstay hiring process. Not everyone gets in. We get a lot of resumes, a lot of folks who are interested in joining the team, and it really is a select few that make it. And you got to be a good mix of having technical proficiencies and skills, but also being really good with clients and have a great personality. So congratulations. It really is hopefully an honor for you, and we're really looking forward to getting started with you and working with you because we know how critical it is to our clients and to the rest of us to be working with such high qualified team members. So congratulations. My name is Ryan Robinson. Hopefully we'll have met by the time you've seen this, but my role here, I'm the Chief Service Officer at Mainstay, and I help oversee a lot of our service delivery and also work on the strategic planning side with our clients, as well as being the technical account manager for a large number of our clients as well. So I do a mix of direct client work, but also work with the team a lot and really make sure that we've got the right kind of service delivery approach, and that both team members are happy and we've got a good process and they're comfortable with their roles, but also that our clients are getting what they need. So the goal of this, our little talk here today, this training, is to really walk you through a few things. One, we want to talk about how Mainstay fits into the overall big picture amongst other IT companies. Second is to look at the various services that we provide. Third, we're going to look at our team structure and kind of the workflow and how we provide the services of an enterprise level IT department in a way that feels comfortable and really provides a lot of value to our clients. And then lastly, we'll end with talking about some ways that Mainstay is really unique and provides a special value. So let's start with how Mainstay fits into the overall big picture amongst IT companies. Generally speaking, you say that there are three kinds of IT companies out there. There's really many more than that. There's many subcategories and nuances here, but three major types. The first are one-man shops. So still in northern New England, there's a lot of IT companies that are really just one guy. They walk around, they drive around in a pickup truck, and they've got screwdrivers, and they work on computers. As you can imagine, there's a lot of value in some ways with the one-man shop approach because clients get a lot of really personalized service. One-man shops tend to really know their clients well, connect with them on a personal level, and part of the reason that one-man shops are still so prevalent, there's so many of them, is because people want to work with IT people that they trust. We are largely in the business, on the surface it looks like we are in the business of providing IT services, but in many respects what we offer is trust to our clients. If they were IT professionals themselves, they wouldn't hire us, right? So they hire us because we have expertise in something that they do not. And as a result, they intuitively know that we could be pulling one over on them if we wanted to convince them of something that was in our best interest and not in theirs. So they're looking for someone that they can really trust. And when they meet someone that they feel like they can trust, that speaks, that translates well various IT principles, they really value that and often have high levels of loyalty. So there's a lot of companies out there that have one-man IT shops, whether they're internal or external, and even if the client is suspicious that they're not getting everything that they need from a technology standpoint, they'll often stick with those one-man shops simply because they've got the trust factor there. Second are these project shops. So there are a number of larger companies across New England. They may have 50, 60, 100 employees, and they're IT companies who often work with larger entities like hospitals, universities, places with large campuses, and they'll come in and they'll do these major projects for them. They'll set up a big HA cluster for them, and they'll do these massive wide-scale projects. Those companies tend to not work with smaller businesses as much. There's some exceptions to that rule, but most of the time they're working with these larger enterprises. And they come in and they do these projects. They may spend a month, 2 months, however long they take, And once those projects are done, they send them a bill and they leave town until the next time a big project is needed. Typically, those project companies supply their engineering skill sets to organizations that already have their own internal IT staff. And so they are providing just a deeper bench or higher level of engineering resources to them. And then third, managed service providers. So managed service providers are the category that Mainstay fits in. Now, managed service providers come in all different shapes and sizes. Some of them may be one-man managed services providers. Some of them have multiple staff. They may have 4 or 5 staff members. Some of them have 20, 30. As of the time of this recording, Mainstay is likely the largest. That we don't keep track. We don't keep track on a daily basis, certainly, of our competition's employee counts. But generally speaking, Mainstay is the largest independently owned IT firm of our type, at least in New Hampshire. And so we try to provide, and the ideal behind managed services is we are trying to provide the services of an IT department to our clients that involves both proactive maintenance as well as all of the reactive support, but do it in a way where we are providing it via a managed service. And generally what's implied by that is some sort of predictable budget that all of those services are included under, and that the client only has to pay a consistent monthly cost in order to get all of those services. And that's opposed to, of course, having their own internal IT staff, or it's opposed to working with a non-managed IT shop, which tend to be more reactive in nature. So managed service providers usually pride themselves on being proactive, as opposed to an IT company like a lot of these one-man shows who really are just coming in when there's a problem and trying to fix that problem and being solely reactive. Now, so here are the services that Mainstay, I want to talk about the services that Mainstay provides, but real quick before I say that, managed service providers can be put in a single category, and you can easily think of them all as being somewhat of the same thing. In principle, they are the same thing. They're trying to provide sort of that multi-layered approach, that multi-layered IT services approach with either a flat cost or a really predictable monthly cost, and be proactive as well. However, we have often found that there are a lot of managed service providers out there that really, even if they may have 5, 6, 7 employees or 15 employees, they function actually as more like the one-man shops, where they assign one of their guys, Joe, Bob, Larry, whatever, and that one guy ends up being their IT department. Well, as you know, one man cannot really be, at the end of the day, an IT department, a comprehensive IT department. You think of the speed at which the IT industry is growing. I mean, you can get deep, high-level certifications in one brand of one particular kind of technology. So the ability for a one-person shop to try to provide that expansive and understand the scope of the industry that well is very, very difficult. And yet, a lot of companies that call themselves managed service providers really are just taking one of their guys and then assigning them to a client, and that assigned resource is responsible to take care of the proactive stuff, the reactive stuff, and engineering projects and the whole 9 yards. And as a result, they tend to either not do any of those things really well, or maybe there's one level of service that is provided effectively, but then the rest of them are really not. So at Mainstay, our goal is to provide a managed service that truly is a managed service, where we have multiple roles and we have consistency across the board. And we're not just giving our clients just sort of a one assigned guy, but rather giving them a full team, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. So here are the services that we provide. Under 3 categories. The first are IT services as a broad general category. Second are cybersecurity services. And third, cloud solutions. So let's talk about each one in turn. Under the IT services category, the easiest way to think of that is something like what I said earlier, where we're trying to provide the services of a full IT department. We provide that in two different categories. We either provide comprehensive IT services, in which, and these are for clients who do not have any internal IT staff, and so we are providing everything from strategic planning, proactive maintenance, help desk, purchasing equipment for them, managing all of that from A to Z. That's the comprehensive IT services that we provide. However, we also work with companies that have their own internal IT departments, generally speaking IT departments of one, where they may have an IT manager on site, or they may have a lower level technician who just handles like desktop support items. And what we will do is we will supplement for them whatever gaps that they have in their internal department. So if it's an IT manager and they have a lot of desire to do strategic planning and do project engineering, but they really don't want to have to worry about fixing PCs and deploying PCs and the lower level tasks, then we may come in and supplement and do those lower level tasks. If there is a lower level staff member who's really more just doing the desktop support side, we may help provide the strategic planning, the big picture oversight, the engineering, and so on. So we provide both support for clients that have no internal IT staff, and we are providing everything for them, and also who are supplementing their own internal IT resources. Second, cybersecurity. This is definitely a growing part of our business because of the growing, certainly public awareness of how many security compromises and breaches are occurring. We obviously see daily news stories about various corporations getting breached, and now more and more seeing stories about even small businesses getting breached and the consequences that can come from that. So cybersecurity services is a growing part of our business, and really right now that ends up fleshing itself out in two ways. One is we will do risk assessments for organizations, and those risk assessments are often required depending on the kind of compliance that client may be under. So for example, we have a number of clients who are in the medical field, and they are technically under HIPAA compliance. Well, HIPAA compliance demands an annual risk assessment. Now that risk assessment may be a self-assessment, but still an annual risk assessment is required. So a company can hire Mainstay to come in and provide that full risk assessment for them, so that even if in subsequent years they do a self-assessment, at least they'll have a really good starting point. So we're doing risk assessments both for current Mainstay clients that we're providing managed services for, but also for clients who do not typically work with Mainstay. Maybe they have their own internal IT staff or whatever, but we can provide that as a standalone service for them, even if we're not providing other kinds of supplemental services. The second category of cybersecurity work that we do is in the broad category of managed security services. So just like managed IT services says for one monthly cost, we will proactively manage your IT department. Likewise, managed security services means for one monthly cost, we will manage various elements of security for you. So I won't go into all the specifics of what managed security services look like, but those are the two broad categories. And lastly, cloud solutions. As you likely are aware, cloud hosting comes in different categories. So you can host specific applications in the cloud, and those can be done either using cloud-hosted infrastructure, or the vendor themselves can host those applications. Second, you can host particular services. So things like email can be moved to the cloud, often a local Exchange server, and they can be moved to Office 365, Microsoft's cloud platform, for instance. But then you have thirdly, you have full infrastructure hosting, which is where you're literally taking all of your servers off of the local environment and moving them to the cloud. There's various different organizations or companies that can support that kind of cloud infrastructure. Amazon Web Services, Google, Microsoft, And at the moment, Mainstay has sort of hitched our wagon to Microsoft, so we are utilizing the Azure platform to help our clients when it makes sense and when it's the right call for them to move their infrastructure fully off a local environment and into the cloud. So we can basically we can help obviously point them in the right direction in terms of moving their specific applications to the cloud. We can help them migrate services to the cloud as well, but additionally we can do the full suite of full infrastructure hosting and help migrate our clients to a fully cloud-hosted environment. All right, so how do we do this? How do we make this all work? Well, I would say this has been an evolving process, and actually even up to this day, this will always be evolving. We're still making tweaks and changes to how we deliver service to our clients because the industry is always changing and our clients' needs are always changing. And as a result, we can never create a one-size-fits-all service delivery method that's going to apply to every client, every situation, with every technology for all time. So this is really evolving, but I'm going to hopefully give you at least the core principles that we go by and how we've structured our teams and how we deliver service. So if you look here, this is basically, think of this as a funnel. At the top of the funnel here, we have all the various teams at Mainstay. And then we have, at the bottom of the funnel, the core team that delivers direct service to a particular client, and then the client themselves, okay? Let me walk through and explain this. So at the top of the funnel, what we are trying to provide to our clients, as I mentioned earlier, is the services, or are the services of a full enterprise quality IT department. And to do that effectively, it means that you can't simply have one or two people that are providing all of the various IT services you need. You really need dedicated resources to various different disciplines. And so we have, over the years, developed more and more teams and added to that enterprise level IT department. So I'll just walk down these teams very briefly. So we have our systems administration team. The systems administrators are really responsible for the proactive maintenance of their clients' networks and environments as a whole. Then we have the RS team, or the response services team. Sometimes in the industry they're called the help desk. We typically don't like the term help desk because it does imply more of a low-level kind of service than we try to provide. Our response services team is pretty unique in that we first have engineers easily and readily accessible for our RS team, which is often not the case. A lot of times, in order to get for a help desk person or response services person to escalate their needs to a higher resource within the company, they have to go to the project engineering the project engineers who may be very busy working on something, and as a result there's a delay between the time when the escalation occurs and when the engineers can actually start helping and supporting and getting the problem resolved. But secondly, one of the things that make our response services team unique is that we ensure that each of our clients has their own primary response services technician, which are dedicated specifically to them to enable a higher level of continuity and sort of relational connection between the client and the response services team. I'll talk about that more in a minute. So we have the response services team. Next, we have the engineering team. The engineering team are responsible to build projects. They're the ones responsible to build those large HA environments, or install firewalls and high-level networking gear. So these are project guys, but they also help with escalations when there are real significant challenges. We have the central services team. This is quite unique for a managed services provider. As you likely know, in an internal IT department, if you go to a big hospital or university and they've got a staff of 20, 30 people, you may find that they have a NOC, or Network Operations Center, and that NOC may be staffed 24/7, it may be staffed only during certain parts of the day, but that NOC is responsible to manage all the sort of the back-end systems and help write scripts and increase and improve efficiencies for the whole IT department and so on. This is pretty rare for a managed services company to have. But Mainstay does, and this has been a real value not only to the clients but to the team in general. Part of this training, you'll get a day in the life where you'll learn about the specifics of these teams from team members themselves who are on them. But suffice it to say that the Central Services team manages our monitoring system, they manage our ticketing system, or they help manage that, and they help manage our business intelligence system as well. So they gather all kinds of data. They help ensure that our clients, that we can report effectively on all the data that we're collecting, and that we're doing things effectively that really should be centrally managed, such as patches and application updates and those kinds of things. So as a result, the Central Services team ensures that, let's say, the systems administrators aren't having to manually do every piece of the work of effectively shepherding a network. Next, we have the purchasing team. The purchasing team is responsible to procure hardware and software for our clients, as well as to manage licenses and renewals. So, we've talked to many IT managers over the years, and they'll say things like, "Man, it's so great to work with a company that can do all of this purchasing for us, because I'm an engineer and I would love to be behind servers more often, and instead I'm having to talk with vendors all the time, or manage our licenses and all of that, and I never get to really work on the technical specifics." So our purchasing team really helps free up the rest of the team because they're managing a lot of the paperwork, the vendor management side, and managing licenses and renewals and so on. Next, we have a development team. So we have a software engineering team, we sometimes call them, and the development team are able to do a bunch of different things. They can build websites. We do quite a few small business quality websites for nonprofits, for municipalities, for small businesses. But they can also do things that really are helpful for our managed services clients, such as build custom databases. They can take, say, an old Access database and then migrate it to, put it on a SQL backend and have it be accessible on the web anywhere, anytime. They can do basically any kind of custom workflow. They can build a custom application to do that. So if a client says, let's say a client is a manufacturing company, and there's no out-of-the-box software that can manage their unique workflow to the T, we can actually help build a very custom software product for them that they can run, that we can host and support, and that they can use to help run their business. Next, we have, as I mentioned, we have a cybersecurity division. At the moment, we don't know of any other managed services provider that has a dedicated cybersecurity team. Occasionally, here and there, you'll hear of different companies getting some certifications for guys related to security. But we have really treated that as, look, if you're going to create an enterprise-level IT department, it's no longer enough to simply have engineers and system admins and so on. You really need to have dedicated security resources, because the way in which the threats are growing and evolving every passing day. So we have a cybersecurity team. Next, we have and these are more internal, we have a finance team that manages all of the billing for our clients, and so they do a lot of direct client interaction to ensure that we're invoicing effectively and delivering agreements, contracts, agreements to clients effectively. We do a lot of good work and help all the rest of the team manage sort of the financial part in a way that the technical team doesn't have to get into the weeds on finance as much as they would otherwise. And then, of course, we have a full admin team. The admin team helps with everything from managing our office space to hearing or receiving service requests from our clients and then entering them into our ticketing system so the team can take them and run with them. All right, so that's at the top of the funnel. So think of that as being, those are the services of that enterprise level IT department. Here's the challenge though. If you create an enterprise level IT department that is that big and that expansive and has that many teams, it can create a scenario in which when the client is working with the company, it feels like they're working with a big behemoth machine. And every time they reach out to us, they've got to navigate the waters and figure out who they are interacting with and so on. Well, it's been very important to Mainstay over the years. We have really built the company on the idea that, look, we live in northern New England. We live in a place where a lot of people know each other, that this is there's a lot of tight-knit communities here. And it's incredibly important for us to have great relationships with our clients and for those relationships to be warm, friendly, inviting, welcoming. And we don't want to create a scenario in which, yes, we have all of this level of expertise, but it's delivered in this kind of cold fashion that's impersonal. No, we want to create something that's very personalized and yet still delivers the quality. So going back, for instance, when I talked about the one-man shops and how there is a real value, even if those one-man shops may not have the same level of technical expertise, they do have a higher level of often relationship quality with their clients, which generates the loyalty and makes it more enjoyable for both the IT staff and the client staff as well. So what we've sought to do is basically to balance the two, to have both a high-level quality team with all these different departments, but also to have a smaller core team, and that's how this sort of funnel analogy works, a smaller core team that the client interacts with on a day-to-day basis. So in that core team, here's who the client on a given day is going to interact with at Mainstay to help ensure that we've got a really good tight-knit relationship while providing all that quality. So first is they'll have a technical account manager. I personally am a technical account manager for a large number of our clients. CEO Ryan Barton is the TAM for a number of clients as well. And our role as a TAM is essentially to help with both the IT strategic planning, the big picture strategic planning for the client, but also to be an escalation point for if the client is having challenges or issues with service delivery or any bigger picture things, they have someone else that are in management that can help navigate those waters for them, and they can escalate those issues too. Next, they have their own dedicated systems administrator. So as I mentioned, the systems administrators are primarily responsible for the proactive maintenance of the network. But they also, in a real way, are the technical lead for the client that they're assigned to. So they are also heavily engaged in the strategic planning process. They are considered by the client as the primary point of contact. Mainstay's their primary point of contact with Mainstay. So they really lead each of the client relationships. Next, we have sort of a secondary SA or a level 2 SA that will help assist the primary systems administrator in some of their tasks and help the client with specific projects that need to be done, and really just support what the systems administrator is doing and what they're leading them to. What this does is it not only takes some weight off the systems administrator, but also creates some continuity so that if the systems administrator, let's say, moves on or gets a promotion or moves to a different team, that there's a little bit more continuity and it doesn't feel to the client like they lost their primary only guy. There's a little more continuity there. So in addition to the technical account manager, the primary systems administrator, and the secondary systems administrator, we also provide each of our clients with an assigned primary response services technician. What that means is that each of our clients has a dedicated resource to ensure that most of the service requests that they send in will be handled by the same exact person. Now, there's two ways to set up a response services team. The first is through a general queue process in which a client reaches out to the company, reaches out to the help desk, and they are simply given whoever is immediately available. Now, the pro of that approach is that the response times typically can lower a little bit because you're getting that immediate available person. The con, though, is that it's more likely you're going to talk to a different person every time you call. So what we have sought to do is to balance both approaches. So we have a general queue in the sense that we have a full response services team that's staffed with quite a few people, but we also have a dedicated resource that each client has as well. So that way, when a client reaches out, they go to the primary response services, the primary RS tech first. If they are not immediately available or available in an appropriate amount of time, they can be escalated. It can be escalated to the general queue, but most of the time it's going to be handled by the same person. That has created a level of continuity and stability for our clients that they have really appreciated. In previous years, we had gotten complaints from clients saying, man, I call into Mainstay and I feel like I'm talking to a different person. I feel like I don't know them. They don't know my systems. And when we looked for a solution. When we first tried the primary response services tech approach, we thought we'd be lucky if 50% of the service requests would be able to be handled by the primary RS tech. And I'm glad to say that we are upwards in the 85, 86% range. So that means that almost 9 times out of 10, when a client reaches out to Mainstay with a service request, they're getting the same exact person who knows them, that they have a good relationship with, has maybe experienced some of the challenges already, and therefore can solve them more quickly. And since moving to that, we thought, well, that probably means, since we are not on that old school general queue model, it probably means that our response times are going to go up, and maybe clients will be frustrated. But because of the added efficiency of this model, we've actually found that that's helped response times to go down. So as a result, we're providing clients not only with a consistent experience and a great connection and partnership and relationship with our RS team, but we've also been able to lower response time as well. So you can see that as that starts out, we have all of these teams available, ready to roll, and accessible to our clients. And yet what they experience at the bottom end of the funnel, what the client experiences, is this small core team. And it provides that balance between high-level resources and a tight personal connection. Okay, so let me finish by talking about just a few elements that make Mainstay's service delivery structure unique and helps clients, increases client satisfaction pretty considerably. The first is that we don't have any staff that are on commission or bonuses. So we don't have any kind of sales pressure that goes along with the recommendations that we're making to our clients. So there's not a single staff member on Mainstay's team, whether or not that's at the new business development level or at any point through the course of the relationship, where one of our team members gets some sort of bonus or financial incentive to sell a client, a higher end server or a SAN that they don't really need or whatever. And that creates that level of trust between our team and the clients. Second, and this is similar to that, we don't profit off hardware and software sales. This is very unique. A company like Mainstay, we do millions of dollars in hardware and software sales every year. So if we wanted to profit off that, it would be a nice little chunk of change. But we have decided not to do that since the beginning of the company. The reason is because we want to sit on the same side of the table as our clients. We never want them in the back of their minds to fear that the recommendations that we might be making are really for our benefit instead of their benefit. So again, if what we're really selling to our clients is not just IT services and technical expertise, but we're selling trust to them, then these two elements really help ensure that we're earning that trust and that we're not just hiring people who hopefully will garner it, which is important as well, but that the processes and structure of how we deliver our service simply undergirds our core values and undergirds our clients' ability to trust us. And also, we have a very intentional, proactive process, not only in the way that we deliver service, but in the planning element as well. When I spoke earlier about the idea that managed services in its ideal form, is meant to be proactive. We try to make sure that that's not just happening in name only, and that that's not just happening because we call ourselves a managed services firm, but that we're really doing it. And to really provide proactive service, it means that you have to do a couple things. One is you have to have dedicated roles to being proactive. Again, if you have a role where someone has to do both proactive and reactive work, what tends to win? Well, the reactive wins. That's part of the reason that we have a dedicated systems administrator and a dedicated primary response services technician for each client. So we can ensure that the proactive and the reactive side are happening from different people, and so we can ensure that both of them get done and get done well. But also, we need the proactivity to enter into the planning as well. Unless you are starting from the top and thinking about how do we structure the environment in the first place, well, you're not going to do really well in any of the individual elements, or you're going to put it in another way, if you're not proactively planning, then you are not going to be able to proactively ensure that what the client needs is really what they're getting. Rather, what you'll do is you'll simply react to, let's say, if a server dies, well, it's like, okay, well, we need to get a new server. Well, you know what? Maybe they don't need to be getting a new server. Maybe in year 4, they should have been planning for that server to be decommissioned, and they should actually be thinking about moving to cloud-hosted infrastructure. So we want to proactively plan. We do that in a number of kind of cool ways. So the first, at the highest level of our proactive planning for our clients, is we have what are called cross-functional teams. Think of cross-functional teams as basically like study groups. Those cross-functional teams are made up of different members of the various teams. And they are designed to study a particular technology or a particular category of technology. So we've had things like security cross-functional teams, or cloud cross-functional teams, where we're coming together as a company, and on those cross-functional teams we have an engineer and systems administrator and a developer and someone on purchasing, and we ensure that we get a real 360 vision of that particular topic. And then each of those members of the team have particular homework. Maybe it's vetting a particular technology, or doing a demo, or understanding the needs of our client base in a particular area. Then we come together, discuss our findings, vet vendors, work with different partners, and ensure that we're building technology standards across the board that we can then train all of our teams to. So again, cross-functional teams help drive technology standards, and those technology standards then help drive the plan for each client. So once we have developed the right kind of standards and the right kind of technologies that we feel comfortable supporting, we know are industry leading, and we can install with best practices, then when we're doing the per client strategic planning, we can now make recommendations that we're going to really feel confident in. And not just simply confident that, let's say, their systems administrator thought were a good idea for them, but or that someone on the team has some read an industry publication about a particular technology, and all right, well, let's give our client that new technology. But rather, we can go about it in a more measured, thoughtful way. So then when we're planning, we're ensuring that we're not just reactively responding or just providing whatever kind of technology seems to one or two people at any given time. Second, under this category of proactive strategic planning, what we will do is we have an IT planning team. So when we go on site to do a strategic planning meeting with our client, it's not simply the systems administrator and a technical account manager who go, or they may be the ones that actually go on site, but they're not just the ones driving the plan. Rather, we meet as an IT planning team in advance of going on site and talking to the client. And that IT planning team consists typically of our CEO. It includes the TAM, the systems administrator, but also may include an engineer or whatever other member of the team makes sense to be in dialogue about that strategic plan. Then we develop that plan, understand what the gaps are that client needs, help establish, let's say, a 3 or 5 year budget for the client so that they can plan in advance. And then we go and deliver that to the client after we've had multiple layers, cross-functional teams, IT planning teams that are specific to the client. And then when we show up to the client, now we're delivering a plan that has been vetted as a company, vetted by the IT planning team, and now delivered effectively to the client. When we do all of this, when we start with the goal of providing managed services effectively, provide the right kinds of services, then leverage a team effectively to where they can both provide these services at a high level, but also do so in a very relational manner. And when we do it without sales pressure and without and with building a high level of trust, and then proactively planning and ensuring that all of these things happening in the right kind of way and with the right kind of approach and the right kind of forethought vision, what we end up with at the end is a happy team and happy clients. And Mainstay, I'm glad to say we have very high levels of customer satisfaction. Not to say that we don't ever have clients upset. We certainly do. And any one of these pieces, there can be a glitch now and again. But from a process standpoint, we've got a solid process that leads to really consistent deliverable results for our clients in a way that generates a real significant amount of trust. Well, I hope that's been a helpful overview of the Mainstay service delivery structure. Next, what I'm hoping that you'll benefit from is seeing a series of interviews with different members of the Mainstay team. Those interviews are going to help give you a sense of what each of these individual teams do, what their roles and responsibilities are, but also what a day in the life of those teams look like. So hope you enjoy those interviews, and again, congratulations and welcome to Mainstay.